tornado is not a disease.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
And this is We Watch Movies. This week's movie is Twister. Twister is a 1996 action movie drama film directed by Jean Dupont, starring Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, Jamie Gertz, and Carrie Elways. How about a plot synopsis?
You seem like really happy to be saying all this.
Well, I made the transition like halfway through.
Yeah, okay, well, Twister is pretty much about some storm chasers trying to try out some new technology to study these tornadoes to help create a warning system. But at the same time, you have this woman who's lost everything from her childhood except for her dog and her mom. And then you have this guy who's like really crazy and stupid and shit. And they've been married, but their relationship's falling apart. And he's trying to move on. And like Joe ends up like pulling them back in and all kinds of bullshit and tropey kind of stuff. And,
Tropes cannon.
The tornadoes were really cool, though. Like, that was the highlight.
It's not her mom, it's her aunt. She's Aunt Meg.
No, I'm talking, like, at the beginning of it, when it was, like, in 1969, and, like, she was, like, a little girl.
The year is 1969. Helen Hunt is a 6-year-old girl. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, like there's the scene, and she's a little girl, and she gets pulled out of bed, and they're going down to the storm cellar.
Why is the storm cellar so far from the house?
I don't know.
Like I also want a mile from the house. Like, really? Like, they're like, we gotta get to the shelter, and then they run for like a minute and a half.
Well, it also doesn't seem very deep, and that door is like a shitty door. Like,
yeah, those locks, those screws are not long enough.
Yeah, it's not even like a shelter. It was like they dug a ditch and then like put wood over the ditch.
I don't know, they got like skylights and stuff, so.
Why do you even have glass on it? It's a storm shelter.
Just so you know when the storm's over.
That's no. Like, you don't need glass because like storm come smash glass. Now it's not really being effective now, is it?
Well, it could be like really thick glass, like portholes on a submarine.
From 69, owned by a farmer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Storm shelters were a thing. Maybe it's like an old bomb shelter from the 60s.
It didn't look like no bomb shelter.
No, but neither do most bomb shelters. Like, we just took an oil drum and like, I'm going to put a hatch on that and that should do it, because just duck and cover. Like, that'll save you.
Yeah. Okay, so these... I don't know what all sound effects they put into the tornadoes.
Bear roars? Maybe?
Well, I was thinking more on like lions. Because that was like my first thought. It's like the little girl, she's in the bed, and then she's like, "Come on, sweetie, we got to go out to the storm cellar." And like you can just hear like the large cat roars inside the wind, and I'm just like, "Yeah, sweetie, you got to go out to the storm shelter because there's lions outside in the wind." Mufasa. And while they're running out there, I want to know what they did to generate the electricity to simulate that lightning, because lightning hit that tree a lot.
I don't know if that was real or if that was ILM work, because there's a lot of like sky replacement and stuff in the later scenes, but I don't know if that's like real or not. Of course, the way that this guy directs a movie, it's possible he's like, no, like it's going to be real lightning and the actors are going to be right there because it'll be crazy. because there's a lot of stuff like that. Like a lot of the cast and crew are like, yeah, he was out of control. Like he was like blinding people with super bright lights, and like people were getting hit by debris. And Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton almost caught hepatitis at one point. And like it was just crazy. So
I like how that's almost caught hepatitis.
Well, it's like
almost
that when they hide in the ditch, like they crash the truck into the pier over the ditch thing is like, I can't get out, like it's too steep, and like they hide under the pier while the tornado comes over. Yeah, like they had to have hepatitis shots after that because they tested the water and like, oh, like this could be something.
Like, yeah, this is dirty water.
Dirty.
Okay, so like that tree was just gone, and then they ran, and so you have like that was what I thought that was like the mom, not Aunt May, you know, because they made a point of saying that sucked her dad away.
No, the mom in 1960, it is the mom, but later with like Gravy as a food group, it's the aunt.
Yeah, now we'll talk about that.
I think it's the
later.
same house though, maybe.
No, because that house was destroyed.
Yeah, was destroyed. Yeah, but it might be the same land.
Maybe. Because remember, like it missed that house, and God really hated us because the lightning fucked up the tree and the tornado destroyed our house, and then they took Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like...
It didn't have to, though, because the door gets ripped off and he goes with it because he's trying to hold it closed. But then they're like 10 feet away further into the shelter, and the door is gone, and they don't get sucked up into the tornado. So if he'd have just stayed further back in the shelter... He would have been
Hell, if he would have just put a better door on it.
Yeah.
That's why you see most of them have like those steel or cast iron doors.
Yeah.
That are really, really heavy.
Like heavy doors. This is a tornado.
Like I know a guy, he has farmland that isn't being used for farmland anymore. And he has a storm shelter, and his door is so heavy it does take two of us to pick it up to open it. Like, it is that heavy.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want.
Yeah. But, like, the mom runs so bad that running trainer for Tom Cruise, that's what she needs.
She didn't fall down, at least.
But it's probably hard for her to fall down with, like, the rotation of her blubber. Because, like, yes, it was a fat person running. Yes, that's what I'm getting at. She was fat and she was running very slowly.
Like if you were running.
Yeah, I actually can run pretty good. I just end up being really tired afterwards.
That's all right. You can rest in the shelter.
Yeah, because I actually got to the shelter and I didn't have to worry about the tornado sucking my ass up.
So then it's present day and a satellite tells us such. And that is the only part in the entire movie that is subpar CG. Because it's pretty bad. Because all the tornadoes and like the sky replacement and everything, like, yep, I buy that. But that satellite is like, what happened? Is this like a screensaver or like what? This is real bad.
A screensaver from Windows 98.
Which would be amazing since this movie came out 2 years earlier than that.
Yeah.
Future screensavers.
So,
how's that for your ILM?
Bill plays a guy named Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I want to know, like, how much easier does it make it on actors who are playing the character with the same name?
I don't know. I wonder if maybe it also causes equal parts problems. Because then, like, if someone is talking to you in character or not, like, you're not sure. Like, you can never know if they're, like, if Helen Hunt broke character at some point, say, like, no, Bill, like, really. He wouldn't know because his character name is Bill. So, but I do always wonder about that, like, characters played by people with the same name.
Yeah.
Now, the question, though, is, Bill before Bill Paxton was cast?
That's actually a really good point.
Because if not, then what are you doing? And if so, then like, whoa. I do want to back up a little bit just to make a little nitpicky thing, just because it's one of my things. The woman that's in the sort of storm center weather agency place that we come back to a few times is like, this is gonna be a long day, and like takes a drink of her tea. She's got the tea bag in the teacup still. Don't do that.
You know, that's kind of my thing. Like, what if that tea bag was to like break because it's like a shitty brand tea bag, and then you end up like drinking the tea debris?
Never mind that. Just like, your tea is not going to taste the same by the end of that. So,
all right. So, nope. I got this one. Do you want to fold your maps or roll your maps?
Well, I did notice that at least for a minute, Alan Ruck, who plays Rabbit, who is one of my favorite actors, and also, incidentally, the Starfleet captain that he plays in the beginning of Star Trek Generation, the Captain John Harriman of the Starship Enterprise 1701B, is my favorite Star Trek captain. He wants to roll the maps. And then we see the bad guy, what is his name? Jonas? He folds his maps. And so I'm like, look, like the good guys roll the maps, the bad guys fold the maps. But then Helen Hunt's character folds the maps too. So maps are apparently not an indicator of who's good guys and bad guys.
Well, like, I fold maps because rolling maps, like, because like every time you roll a map and then you try to unroll it and you're not touching it, it just rolls back up.
Well, see, the thing is,
I was trying to look at that shit.
That he says there's a big crease right through Wichita, and then I wanted so bad for them to end up in Wichita and have a giant tornado like go through the middle of it and like lay a big trough of destruction and have that be a big crease through Wichita. But
that would be very ironic.
They don't do that.
Nope. Okay, now, can you guess what my favorite character in this movie was?
Dusty?
It was! Because it took me a moment, and I'm like, is that Hoffman?
Yep.
Holy
Seymour
shit!
Hoffman.
Like, that's young Phillips Hoffman. Holy
Playing
shit, that's
probably
awesome!
the silliest character he ever plays.
And for anybody who is an actor who might stumble upon us talking about shit like this, all those movies that you acted in that were terrible or you thought your role was horrible end up being actually really good and more enjoyable than other stuff. Because, like, even for this guy, like, I liked him playing Dusty as a younger Hoffman compared to his role in the Hunger Games where he's supposed to, you know, espionage and information and shit. Like, fuck that guy. I'm not interested. But Dusty here, hilarious. Love this guy.
Well, it's because he's wasted in the Hunger Games because he's Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then you have him doing effectively nothing. So at least in this, he has a lot to do. It's not your typical Philip Seymour Hoffman-ness, but it's something.
No, but like you have Bill, and he shows up with his new wife, and just like, dude, this is what we do around here. Yeah, let me show you. Like, Dusty, I don't know if I should be leaving my future wife with you. Because you're gonna scare her away. Obviously, she doesn't get scared away because the entire point of her, I don't remember her name, but the only point of her was to show up, be very thin-skinned, stick out like a sore thumb, not be liked, just so Bill and Joe could get back together.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the not being down with the chasing tornado stuff. Like, not everybody's up for that. But to be, like, not able to handle it because there's gravy, like, that's a problem right there. Like, you've got to just drop her right there.
Well, okay, so, like, they're in there, and they're going to go visit Aunt May because they're hungry. And I love that scene. Food. And, of course, you know, she feeds them. Because she loves her boys, even though they're not really hers. And, like, she feeds them good. But, of course, you know, cows just died, so it's okay. But then they just pour gravy on everything. And I'm okay with gravy. But gravy on appropriate dishes in moderation. And it's just like, people were just, like, they weren't putting gravy on food. They were putting food in gravy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's practically its own food group, remember? So,
yeah. And then like the steak, and they just like slap the steak down on the what was her name? What was her name? She is just that unimportant.
Almost wife.
Almost wife, yeah.
Melissa.
Okay, so they put the big O steak down on Melissa's plate, and then Melissa just looks at it like, "What am I supposed to do with this?"
It's like it's a steak.
Yeah,
you
eat that.
it.
Eat that. Eat that. That's delicious. It's fresh.
Yeah, they slap that steak down, and it's not even a toaster.
Yeah, toaster heaven.
Gravy is not, in fact, a food group, but it's really good.
But like that right there, that's just another scene to show that she isn't supposed to be there.
Yeah,
like
she's not part of this. She's not. I mean, because immediately, like, come on. Like, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, like, they need to be together. Because there's no way he's just going to sit on TV and be a weatherman and watch storms and stuff happening places where he's just having to talk about it and can't actually be there. I mean, because he keeps saying, "I'm not back. I never asked for this." But he totally is. Like, he immediately is. You can see it in his eyes. Like, you're doing what? Like, you built what? There's what kind of storm coming? Like, he's on board, like, right away. And he's fighting with himself about it because the new wife is over there, like, twirling the giant diamond ring and being like, "Can you just, like, get us out of here?" But, yeah, like, he can't leave that, which she eventually notices and admits to, and she's right. Like, that scene is right. Because she's like, "I can't compete with this." It's like, no, of course you can't. Go ahead. Go. Let him do his thing.
You know, she did realize that Joe was still in love with him, and that's why she was being so slow about signing the papers for the, finalizing the divorce. But at the same time, there was that scene where they're out in the rain, and for some reason the CB radio is picking them up and everybody can hear it.
Two different scenes, that.
Yeah.
While in other scenes you see them clearly having to key the mics, but then in other scenes they're on Vox for some arbitrary reason so that other people can listen in.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that got me is you have this rival group, and the first time we meet this rival group, they just seem to blow right past them.
Yeah. And how do we know they're the bad guys? They drive black cars.
Yeah. But, like, there's the van, and so you have Bill and his future wife, and they're behind everybody, and then the van just shows up, honks his horn,
and then tries to kill him.
Well, it's like he doesn't, like, that's the thing that kind of got me, was just like, no. He just drove himself off the road. He wasn't pushed off the road, and there was plenty of room for the van just to drive by him.
I mean, he does kind of sort of feint towards him. He does kind of swerve a little bit, but probably just to mess with him. But he sort of runs himself off the road more than the van actually does.
And I'm like, Bill sucks at driving. Like, he really does. And he does it multiple times where I'm just like watching him drive, and I'm just like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to cause an accident. Don't do that. No. And of course you're stuck in the mud. Of course you have a flat tire. Of course you're all about to die.
Yeah. Well, but he's the
extremely bad driver.
So he totally admits that he stole the idea. Like, because he says, no, like, you stole my idea. And then, like, they fight about it a little bit more. And then he says, no, we had the idea. And he says, unrealized idea. And I'm like, you just admitted in front of live news cameras that you stole the idea. So, do you realize you just admitted that?
Well, something else that the movie did to show us that they were more about the money was the little sensors were all shiny and they were square shaped.
Yeah, square. Like, I mean, theirs don't apparently get sucked up into a tornado anyway because they're just round, which is one of the main problems with this is like, okay, so maybe they don't fly exactly like you want them to in the tornado, but they're all just sort of laying out there on the road several different times. Aren't they going to get, like, dust is getting sucked up into the tornado? Like, they're going to, things from dust size to tanker truck size are getting sucked into the tornado. So I think the little Dorothy sensors are included in things that can get sucked into a tornado just by the strength of the wind. But I know he's supposed to not have instincts and he's only in it for the money and he's not as good at the science and he doesn't have the instincts that Bill Paxton has. But who sits there and designs a thing that's supposed to interact with wind and that's its only purpose and decides, yeah, sure, square is the most aerodynamic shape we can make?
At least they were shiny.
So then I don't have anything until the sister twisters. So I don't know if you have anything in between that.
Well, yeah, okay, let's see here. And Weatherman doesn't seem to know how owning and making tech works. The best way to have music in a movie or Hoffman in this film. Yeah! Because they're driving off for the tornado, and Hoffman in the van, like, plays the music through the speakers on top of the van.
Yeah, which they show us at least twice, maybe 3 times. Like, we see him, like, put the cassette tape in or whatever, and then we have this, like, pan from the outside up to the megaphone speaker. Like, okay, we get it. He's playing the music for real. Like, you don't have to do that every time. But yeah, like, I like it when music in movies is justified, at least part of the time. Like, I like it when there's source music. Except we have 2 or 3 different sources of music, because, like, the one dude is playing, like, the 1812 Overture or something, and, like, the other dudes are playing something else. But I guess Dusty's the only one with an external speaker.
Yeah. He's equipped. Right. Okay, yeah. They're arguing in the truck and his driving sucks, and my next comment is, I can fight and drive because I keep my eye on the road.
Yeah, like, do you want me to drive? No. Well, will you?
Yeah. But I am a happy person. You know, he is a happy person. He even tells himself he's a happy person.
Doesn't make it true.
Now, and then she makes the comment, it's like, what, you lose your nerve? And, like, then they just drive on a dirt path, and I'm just like...
Yeah, he's like, you lose your nerve, like, no, I'm going to do something really stupid that is not going to help our cause. Just to prove
it doesn't start off... It doesn't start off stupid. It's just, like, they're driving down a dirt path. And it just so happens that dirt path gets deeper and then turns into a thing filled with water. And it's just like, really? He lost his nerve, and so now he's going to drive on a dirt path to prove he hasn't. Like, this... No. And now the tornado is growling at us.
Again.
Yeah. And so, like, the tornado hits. The tornado hits, and then the truck ends up hitting that bridge thing because it doesn't seem to have brakes.
Well, in mud like that, it is hard to stop in any short amount of distance. Because he keeps, like, pressing on the brakes and he never says, no brakes! Although, this movie is directed by the same guy who directed Speed, where there is the brakes are dead part. But he does crash into the pier. And then they get hepatitis.
And then my next one is, she just missed the truck. That's awesome. I don't even remember. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because...
Yeah, that's what Dusty says.
Yeah, new wife was driving, and then she mistried. It's like, yeah, she almost died in a car accident, but it's all right, because it's really sweet that she missed that truck. Reflexes, man.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the sister water spouts, because that was crazy. Like, it's just one, and then it split. And then we have the most famous cow in the world.
Yes, the cow. Which... Yeah. In case you don't remember, is a reference to Wizard of Oz, because a cow flies by the window in that. But nobody remembers that. Everybody thinks, oh, yeah, of course, cows and tornadoes. That's from Twister.
Yep. But it's like hey, look, another cow. Like, nope, that's the same cow.
Nope.
Did you see my cows out front? No, exactly.
Yeah, except these didn't get sucked into tornadoes. These are steaks.
Yep.
Eat that steak.
I will. Steak's delicious. You told me you chased tornadoes. I thought it was a metaphor.
Yeah, and my note says, metaphor for what? Like, I know she's a psychologist or whatever, but, like, what is that a metaphor for? Like, no, I really used to drive around in a pickup truck and chase after tornadoes. Like, it's not a metaphor. It's not an entendre. It's not innuendo. No, I really used to do that. That's a thing people do. So
well, it was it's like the way it was. It's like, even though she's a psychiatrist, she's like what, a reproductive psychiatrist.
I don't know. Do we ever hear in particular?
Yeah, because she was on the phone.
I know
and it's
she
like,
keeps
no,
getting calls from patients, but
like, no, she didn't marry your penis.
well, not
like, okay,
just.
yeah, not just your penis. And then it was like something else, and it's like, yeah, she's a reproductive therapist or whatever. And then it's just like, okay, that's not weird or creepy at all, but at least she's got some form of training for therapy. And then it's just like, okay, I thought it was a metaphor. And I'm like, if she thought that was a metaphor, I want to know, like, after this, like, if he started talking about Puff the Magic Dragon, like, would she still be confused? Like, is he being serious now, or is this a metaphor? Like, nah, man, there's like a movie about it and everything. I was a kid, and he was like purple and shit.
It's like a theme song.
Yeah. We are not invading my aunt. Food.
Gravy.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really intend that way, and probably doesn't sound like that at all, but suddenly I just had an image of Johnny Bravo saying, "Oh, gravy." Even though I don't know that he ever actually said that.
No, because that was from Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Oh, yeah.
Like Ed.
Bathtub of gravy.
Like a ladle. It's a tub of gravy.
Yeah. Which has got to have gone sour by now.
Like buttered toast, gravy, buttered toast. And there was one more thing that he used to say.
And then, like, other things besides that.
Pretty much, yeah. There's like, I am Ed.
Yeah. His only has one. Is he? Yeah, he's 1D.
Yeah, he's 1D.
Yeah. Because Double D has the hat, and then Eddie is the TJ
mastermind
of their group. Yeah.
Yeah, he is the mastermind with all the failed plans. Okay, so you have all that food on that table.
And one of our typical things we always come back to, it's not the mom, and in this case it's not even the aunt, but we have the embarrassing story at dinner.
Yeah. Well, I don't even really know, like, how embarrassing it was supposed to be. It's, it's a guy drinking Jack Daniels, supposedly naked, and then he throws the Jack Daniels at a tornado. It's just like, well, it's awkward, but,
Yeah, but it's presented as the embarrassing story at dinner. They keep cutting back at her looking embarrassed and Bill looking embarrassed, and
like, this is how extreme he is. He was drinking and chasing tornadoes, and he was like, fuck you, tornado, here's some Jack Daniels. And it never hit the ground, because that's how close they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually that's awesome. Like, you're alive from that.
How are you alive?
Well, those cows aren't. The cows.
No. That one, though, with what happened at first to that tanker truck, like it just sort of sets back onto the ground, like before it continues to get pushed along. Like, that cow could just be like over there in the field being like, whoa.
This is like a cow just over there, just like kept eating. It's like, well, people pay to do this at, theme parks. I did this for free.
So then we get past the embarrassing story, and we get the what's an F5, and then almost a literal record scratch. Like, there's no record playing, but that's the way everybody reacts. She's like, is there an F5? And like everything stops and everybody kind of looks that way and is like, finger of God. It's like, we don't have to hang that. One of us experienced it. We don't have to. I don't think we have to hang that. Like, we know Helen Hunt is the girl from 1960 by now.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like, it's been so many years, and I can understand it's left a bad taste in her mouth, but like they act as if you say that, she's gonna go into like hardcore bitch mode and destroy everything you love and hold dear. And it's just like, we just don't say that for our own safety. It's just like, no, like, this person, she doesn't know, and we're just telling her to educate her because they are very dangerous, and there's someone with us who has experienced one firsthand and lost a loved one. It's a sad experience, but it happens. I mean, just look at the town of BB. Anytime a tornado hits, like, it could be in another state, but it drops by BB just to say, fuck you. like slap someone's house down, and then just dissipates. So shit happens.
And if she really is that uptight about an F5, like, suppose it happened before now. Like, because it hasn't. We're supposed to believe that in 40 years there's not been an F5 level tornado, or 30 years, or whatever it is. But suppose there had been. Is she just gonna, like, fall to the ground sobbing, or what? And, like, completely jeopardize any of their research or whatever if it does happen? Because that scene is intercut with her being sort of vaguely sad in the shower about nothing in particular, because she doesn't know that they're talking about the F5. Also, it bothers me that now we don't really use that scale anymore, because now you don't have that reference. Like, they use a different scale now than the Vegeta scale, and that's a problem. Not just because now it no longer has a name that associates with Dragon Ball, but
okay, well, what is it?
It's the Vegeta scale. Is the actual?
It sounds like you're saying F though.
It is F. It's the F whatever scale. But I know, but it's very, 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 very close. It's close enough that if you say it quickly, it sounds like it.
Not over 9,000.
No.
It'll destroy a barn, but it won't destroy a planet. The balls are inert.
So apparently are the Darthy sensor balls.
Yeah.
And even if they aren't,
that's no moon, that's a space station.
Heavy-handed Star Wars reference is heavy-handed. Like,
it was so heavy I had to pause just to like look at them and be like, well, we know they're a whole bunch of nerds. You gotta keep hitting us in the face.
Like, they're weather nerds. We don't know that they're Star Wars nerds. Like, they're weather nerds. There are many variant, disparate types of nerds that
at that time, it didn't matter. If you were a nerd of some kind, you were divided between Wars or Trek. They just so happened to be of the war variety.
Can't have one without the other.
No.
But it takes so long to get the Darthy ready. Like, he's in the back of that truck forever. And he's, like, messing with switches and turning this knob and that knob and unlocking this and trying to get the ratchet straps unlatched. And it's like, it takes so long. Like, you know that this is going to be, you're not going to have much time. Like, you're going to drive in front of a tornado, you're going to drop this device, and you're going to get out so you don't die. But you're going to create a device that, in order to get ready, takes 15 minutes to get ready. Like, why is it so non-automatic? Like, so much of this should just be like, you set it in the wind sucks the lid off, and that turns on everything. And also, what is the thing doing, even? Because aren't the little device thingies, the little sensor ball thingies, they're just transmitting stuff back to the equipment in the van, aren't they? So what's with all the switches on the device? Because I know that Jonas's has, like, satellite comlink and whatever made up 90s tech impressive sounding business it is he says, but theirs doesn't seem to. So what are all these switches? All these switches.
Why can't they just have one switch?
Yes, one switch.
I mean, because if you're having to flip all the switches on, why can't you just have like
and it really
one
is the switches. Yeah.
What if the wind blows, hit the lid, and then, like, that lid hits the switches the other way and turns them off?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what about that?
Those switches aren't under, like, let's not launch the nuclear missile plastic covers or anything. They're just right there on the side. I think that if you're dropping it under a giant tornado, maybe the wind could switch the switches even. Like, it's picking up cows and things. I think it could flip a switch. Yeah.
Fucking
we
slam
got
a semi into it.
Did you see that explosion? So then we have the reason that people who have never seen The Shining are aware of the two scenes in The Shining.
Yeah, and so, like, this is, like, at this point, it's like, okay, well, now we know that the new wife is unimportant anymore, and she's gonna go, and we still have 45 minutes left of this movie to go through. Because, like, that's something I kind of expect towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, we
But
did
it's
get
like,
it out of
oh.
the way pretty early because they do it right there at the drive-in. Which is I think is a good choice because then it gets her out of the way. So it's not like, do we really have to keep up this will they won't they for this long when we know immediately that he's going to get back together with her because they're right for her and she's all like, I don't care if she has a southern accent. They are not the same.
Nope. And the murder scene from The Shining plays at just the right moment that she signs the papers.
And, well, even more than that, you see, like, when the screen finally gets destroyed, you have the Jack Nicholson "Here's Johnny" face happening in it, so it makes it almost look like it's on the front of the tornado. And up till this point, every time they have a tornado attack, it's really frightening, because tornadoes are scary. But I think that this one at the theater, because it's like the third or fourth one that we actually see at this point, because we have the one at the beginning that kills the dad, and then we have the twins, and then we have the other one, and then we have the one here at the theater, and then we're going to have the actual F5 in a minute. This is the last one that's really scary for any amount of time. Because we don't see the one that almost kills Aunt Meg. Also, Aunt Meg is a boss because she's like, I'm going to drive myself to the hospital and like, leave me alone. Like, I've got this.
Yeah.
Even though
I'm not hurt.
Like the town is just toast. Like there's nothing left of the town and she's
like
barely conscious, but
And it's like worried about the dog. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people like that. It's like, hey, my dog's more important than myself. Without my dog, I don't got anything to live for. But hey, they saved the dog, so that's always good.
yeah, at least they didn't. Because that's the thing is because nobody evidently that we know dies during the movie up till this point. Like they sort of tease like Aunt Meg is dead and then they find her and save her. But nobody dies yet. Although somebody's got to, because as much damage as is happening to things, somebody's got to have died. But we don't see it and it's nobody that we know. But because they're
we almost
go
for it. Go
no,
ahead.
I think mine is further ahead.
I was gonna say because like the I guess it was supposed to actually be a tornado. Like they didn't say like, oh, is that an F5? Like no, that's just like some updrafts and some bursts. But the actual like physical part of the tornado that you could see behind the drive-in. You only saw it during some lightning strikes.
It looked pretty sizable, though.
It did. Like, it looked pretty big, but you didn't see anything else of it except for like debris falling on top of the building that they were hiding in. And so, like that was that's where the scary stuff is. Like just seeing the wind and some stuff kind of spinning around isn't so bad. But whenever you see stuff like starting to fall and smash into other stuff and, you know, it's near people and you're like, oh, you could almost hit them. Like that's where it starts getting a little nerve wracking, especially when you hear the wind and it sounds like the screams of children in the wind.
Yeah. Because it's, I mean, that's a really cool moment there when they're like, it's already here. And then the lightning strikes and it's like right there.
Like, yeah, like that's like you shit your pants kind of fear. Like, oh, damn. Okay, so the wind and all that died down, and they're getting ready to go out and save Aunt Meg. And there's the new wife who's no longer the new wife. She's just the reproductive therapist person. And she goes, I'm really not upset, and I don't know what that means.
It means you shouldn't have been together. So go ahead.
Yeah,
leave.
It's like,
at least she didn't just disappear.
Yeah,
she
like that,
said,
like that would have
hey,
been bad.
I'm gonna leave, and
like, I'm going home.
Yeah, like I'll meet you. No, you won't. I won't be there. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I guess he must care something about her, but not enough, and he's clearly better suited for Helen Hunt. So,
They wasted so much time trying to just get to Aunt Meg. And it's just like, it was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, they drove like an hour and they're totally too late. It's over by the time they get there. The town is just like they actually say on the news that Wakita is leveled. But I guess nobody would have found, well, hopefully the fire department would have gone around checking and eventually found her there in the house. But they do find her in the house and save the dog and stuff. But
well, for that, like, yeah, they save the dog and that's good. And Aunt Meg isn't that hurt, other than like, oh, well, it's my wrist and all this other stuff. But she had a lot of blood on her, and I want to know where that blood came from.
yeah, well, I mean, she was hit on the head, so I guess, you get hit on the head, you bleed a lot from your head, even when it's not that
Well,
serious.
I mean, like, because it wasn't like it was everywhere. It was just like there was a big spot directly on her chest when she was laying on her back, covered with that cabinet. Because they had to pick the cabinet up to pull her out from underneath it. And there it was. It was just right there on her chest.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was just the head. It's only a flesh wound.
Barely even that.
So there's no way, once having the idea, I like the way they get the idea. They sort of look over at Aunt Meg's whirligig arts and crafts thingies and think of, hey, maybe we should put propellers on them, because for some reason little round balls don't get picked up by tornadoes because the tornado says no. But there's no way they make like 300 or 400 of those.
Yeah,
in
that's
that
ridiculous.
much time. There's no
Well, like that's my next note is Pepsi and those fuckers need gloves.
Yeah, Pepsi and one Mountain Dew can. There's one Mountain Dew can in that bag.
And you know what? That Mountain Dew can was drank by Dusty.
Yeah.
Because he is the Mountain Dew drinker.
Yeah. It's probably what his drinking hose in his, like, next to his driver's seat is connected to.
Which is also awesome. I mean, like, I wouldn't want to put soda in that because it'd probably get flat, but, like, yeah. Totally put, like, tea or lemonade or some non-carbonated beverage. But the thing is, like, so they're cutting open the aluminum cans.
With scissors!
Yeah. But the thing is, like, aluminum cans are kind of sharp because they're so thin.
Yeah, they are.
And, like, so their hands are all bleedy.
Yeah.
Like, they got all these cuts on their hands. I'm like, you guys need gloves or something, because you're going to get blood everywhere. And that's kind of nasty.
Because hepatitis.
Yeah. And, like, how many, like, I want to know exactly how many did they actually fix? Because, like, those things were too fancy just to be done as quickly as they show.
Yeah. Because I mean, I know they go from night to dawn, but that can only be, what, like 8 hours, maybe? That still seems like altogether too short to be anywhere near enough time to make that many of them. Also, good thing they have a convenient screw that you can just take off and attach the propellers to.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And how, being like weather experts and people, did they not think of this? And especially Jonas with his corporate sponsors and his square sensor thingies and his satellite comlink and business and his matching black minivans. Did he not wind tunnel any of these things or anything, like, to see if this was going to work? Like, you're a scientist, do some research. Like, hey, we're going to make 4 of these exactly the same that we've never tested and just hope.
Well, for themselves.
Yeah, for them, I know they're out of grant money and whatever, but Jonas, like, he has no excuse.
Yeah. Well, he's in it for the money, not for the science. So we know he doesn't have the intelligence.
Be successful to make money on it.
He does. Like, he himself wouldn't have, like, the scientific, background to know, okay, well, we need to do this. But
he seems to have people working with him, though.
Exactly. Like, he should have the money to be like, okay, well, we need to hire some scientists who know about wind to make sure this stuff can actually pick up and fly in a smooth pattern without, like, shooting off everywhere.
Yeah.
And then, like, okay, well, people were paid to test this stuff, and this is the fruit of their labor.
Yeah. Because squares.
And, like, it wasn't it in the back of their truck, like, they were pulling something, and when they got sucked up, like, wasn't it with them as well?
Yeah, well, they had their dot, I think they called it, which I don't know if did they say what it stood for? Maybe they did. It was they had it in a trailer behind their SUV thing. They didn't have it in the bed of a truck. because they had whatever their thing was driving with the trailer, and then three, four minivans, and then whatever their actual like their here's where the technology is van. Like that's a cool looking van. Like I like that van. I don't know what it is, but it was cool looking. And then after all this time of copying Bill and like knowing that Bill knows better than him is and just not admitting it publicly, he decides not to do what Bill does and dies of stupid.
Yep. Well, even Bill tells him, it's like, hey, you know, this thing is about to curve and it's going to be on top of you and y'all are going to die. So just like, stop.
Yeah. And he knows that Bill knows.
Yeah.
So,
and like it's not even that. It's like because what's his face isn't even driving. It's the other dude. And the other dude could have totally just been like,
that's time for the other dude to be like, I don't care if you're the boss. Like, I don't want to die. I'm getting out of here. So
yeah, like, I don't know. It's not like I'm going to die going out famous. It's like, no, like I'm just the driver.
So no, I'm not going to let you kill us because you're like petty and stupid and don't know what you're doing. But the F5, right. Like we finally have the F5. And I don't know if it's just one tornado encounter too many, or if it's because it's so big that you can't get a sense of the scale, and so they're always sort of way over here until right at the end when it comes over and destroys the shack they're in. But all of the other tornado encounters up till this point are scary. Like all of them. But this one, for most of the time, they're like the finger of God, and it's like the worst ever thing, and it killed Helen Hunt's father. But it just isn't that, it really just isn't scary for most of it. Because they're like, it's like a mile wide. And they repeat that several different times. But they've repeated it several different times. I don't know why I'm suddenly Italian there, but there's, it's I don't know what did you feel like that? Like it wasn't as scary as the others were? Or is it just me?
Honestly, I've gotten to the point that tornadoes don't really scare me as much as they're interesting to watch. Now, the first one is kind of spooky because you never see it, but at the same time, you never see it.
Oh, the one that kills the father? Yeah.
The one that kills the father. And then there's the one that was at the drive-in. And that one is kind of like oh, shit, because half the time, all these other tornadoes, like you hear them from really far off. You normally see them in, but it's already dark. You don't hear anything other than like a slight whistle.
Yeah, it just drops on them.
Yeah, and then it's just like right there. It's huge. It's loud, and it's just like like oh my god, 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 and like that's like horror monster movie stuff right there. Like it's right there on you. You don't see it until lightning flashes, and there it is, and then everybody shits their pants. So like that one is the only one that really kind of like still scares me. It's not enough to make me shiver or have like a real sense of fear, but that's going to be the top tier for this movie. The rest of them, you could see them in the distance, even when they were close up. They didn't really bother me, and even this one gave me a sense of like, ooh, look at that thing. It's huge. Because the way that the road was done and how the field was, it's a gigantic tornado, and you could tell it's far away just because of the angle that the road goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you see like, oh, all these other people are turning off, and you can kind of see them down there, and like they look tiny, and this tornado is like over here, and it seems huge, and it's just as far away, but in the other direction. So it was more of a sense of like how awesomely big this thing is compared to, oh, well, it's supposed to be scary, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, it's set up the whole movie. Like, the F5 is the thing you never want to see because it will murder you, like, deliberately. And it's not. Like, for some reason, it's just not. Like, all of the lesser ones are like, oh, well, that's, like, pretty frightening and scary. Or
well,
at least like
ones,
gives you like a chill, and because even that, like they drive up on the ones and suddenly the ones in the water appear, and I'm like, ooh man, tornadoes, and it doesn't really happen with the final one until like they get the sensors up into it, and then they're like, oh wait, now we're like stuck like right here without a truck, and now what? And then they have to kind of hide in the shed, and it's coming towards them. But even that, like, it's never really that scary. But then I'm just like, Ooh, I have no idea if there's really like a miniature tornado spinning the other direction inside the main tornado, but that's really cool. But it's still never really that scary.
Well,
but the others are. It does a good job of being scary up until the last.
I think the other ones. I don't think it's as scary as much as it is intense. Because with the smaller ones, they could get closer to them without damaging their vehicle.
Yeah.
While,
well, that's what
like,
I mean
the
about the
F5
scale. Like, is it just too big to really have an impact?
Yeah, it's like so large that it's picking up stuff further away from what you can actually make out of it. While the smaller ones are like, they kind of have to be right up on you to start like picking up your truck and throwing it places. So you can get closer to it, and because you're closer to it, it moves faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever
it's right
it darts,
there, you're like, it's right there. So
like when it darts to the left or darts to the right, you have to be on your game or you're going to get hit. And so like that increases the intensity that you're going to have to, react with when you're having to deal with these smaller tornadoes. Because, they can still pick you up and throw you, and you're still going to die. But like the big one, you see it coming from miles away because it's gigantic.
Yeah.
Now, I guess if it was faster moving, it's like, we're driving as fast as we can, all this corn and all these cornfields, it's slowing us down. And then like it kind of picks up their truck and rolls their truck or whatever. And it does a lot of stuff to them where it made it more difficult for them to seem like they were going to make it. Then I'd be a little more okay with it. But the F5 itself, if they would have had it with some CG to show like the destruction that it left in its place, like all the corn that got picked up and threw off, and you just see like barren dirt or something, then I'd be like, oh damn, that's mean. But
that may be something too, because all the others, there's something clearly being destroyed. It's tearing up the fence behind them. It's throwing cows around. It's tearing the drive-in screen apart. It's sucking the truck toward it or something. And then that one is just like, it's in the middle of a field and it's so big and it doesn't seem to touch anything.
Okay, now, whenever they start setting up the Dorothies, and they have the two of them, and that first one, they pull it out and they try to get it launched. I was just thinking, with all this stuff that they've been doing, I'm surprised they didn't try to set it up with an RC. Where they could just kind of have it set there and then drive it towards the tornado from like a shorter distance. So they didn't have to worry about, okay, well, is the tornado going to head this way? And then we got to get close enough to it, drop it off, and try to get away safely. Like, no, just put it down on the road and drive it towards the tornado so it can get sucked up while we watch it from a safer distance. And then, of course...
Yeah, like a bomb squad robot, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I know they don't have any more grant money, but at the same time, there was a period where they did.
Yeah, and you could have built like 2 of them that were RC instead of 4 of them that are useless without Pepsi cans.
Yeah.
Now, we skipped over that a little bit. Like, should we be heavier on them about the, hey, look, it's all, like, find every can you can. Find every aluminum can you can. They only find Pepsi cans. Because we've been heavy on like, slapping down the product placement in the past. Like, it's all Pepsi.
They were all Pepsi.
They were.
And honestly, I prefer Pepsi over Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but then you're just taking sides. That doesn't mean it's not irresponsible product placement, though.
Yeah. I am taking sides, but the fact is, because it's Pepsi, I still know it's a product placement, but I'm more approving of it because I like Pepsi in comparison. So I'm like, hey, look, Pepsi, I drink that stuff too.
Also, way back at the beginning, they have this, after the first thing we have after it's the 60s and the dad gets killed. They have this great like helicopter, like from way the heck over here over to the truck with epic music playing like to his truck, to Bill Paxton's truck, and it's like, this is better than any commercial that Dodge has ever put on TV. Like, this is amazing. And they never actually say what kind of truck it is, but they do say from time to time, hey, that's a nice truck, man, it's a nice truck. It's like, yeah, my truck, like, it's a real pretty truck. Be ashamed to like suck it into a tornado, but yeah, it's just like that. It's just like it's really like, it's not really, I guess, product placement-y as much as the Pepsi is, but And it didn't bother me because it was like, hey, this is really cool. And they do that several other times. All those really big sweeping shots, like they'll be like following the one Bill Paxton's group with all of their cars, and they'll be driving down the road over here, and then Jonas will be over here with his trucks, and will come out the window of Bill Paxton's truck and go way over the field, and then come in against their the bad guys' cars, and all of that stuff is like really, really cool. I like that stuff.
My next note is when what was it that exploded?
The tanker truck.
Okay, so they dodge the tanker truck and it explodes, and then you hear Dusty on the radio. And it's like, dude, did you see that explosion? And I really did. I had to say it. I'm like, dude, we were in the explosion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that other characters need to be like Dusty, but actually, yeah. Well, I know you can't. I know you can't, because then you would just have two of the same character. But at the same time, kind of go along with like the way these characters act that make them stand out. Kind of go along with it, because it feels more appreciative of having that character in it. Because anyone could have just said like, "Hey, did you see that explosion?" Like anybody could have said that. But it's the fact that you had that one guy who is like that in the movie say that to him. and then it was just like, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Like, really?
They don't even make a quip out of it on their end. They don't say, yeah, we were in it. Because Bill Paxton is the extreme.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like they had enough build up for it. They could have just done that. Okay. Okay, so you have Mr. Bad Guy, and then you have the driver who, even though they both die, I was okay with them both dying, because he totally could have just hit the brakes. I mean, he's not a robot. He could have done what he wanted to do. But the face he made right before he got that, what is that? Like the Triforce beam thing? Well, like before that thing like came flying through and like smashed him in the face, he looked like Mr. Bean.
Kind of.
You know, because it's like that, like, oh no face, like from Mr. Bean. Like that's what he looked like. And then at this point in time, the tornado sounds like it has the screams from the Shriekers in Tremors 2 and 3. Like that terrible loud shrieking sound that those little creatures make. Like, yeah, that's what it sounds like. That is in that tornado. Now, my next note is, at this point, I am no longer afraid of what could happen, cause too much funny shit, like driving through the house.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, okay, so they drive through the house. They have to have the whole house look like he's being like he's just driving from one room to the next, even though it's like a short, straight cut through. And then he can't seem to keep his eyes like to the front. Like he's always having to look behind. Like, oh yeah, we totally drove through that house. Let me look at it. Like, oh, we totally dodged something. Look at it. You know, always. And then his problem with driving is that he doesn't keep his eyes forward. And then their little Pepsi balls went into the air. All I could think of was, surprise, motherfucker. Yeah, okay, so like the little Pepsi balls, you know, they finally get sucked up, and on the computer, like they all kind of light up and they're spinning around, and you know, the lights that light up on the computer screen, those were the Pepsi colors. They
kind of were. There was green in there too.
I remember there was green on the screen, but like those little lights that flashed were like the red and blue. And they swirled around like the white stuff, and I'm like, ha, Pepsi colors. They're just surprise, motherfucker. And you just like all of them all over the place, like, man. And okay, so my last one. Let's go into the barn for safety. They run into the barn and they see farm tools, and she goes, who are these people? And like they just needed to be like a farmer who shows up, like a fat, smelly farmer, and goes, we're farmers. That's who. Like,
we are farmers.
Dum, bum, 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 bum. So, like, seriously, like it's a farm and it's a barn at the farm, and you go inside and you see tools.
Farming is violent,
and you see tools, and like, yeah, there's a lot of blades, because you know, like you have like they're gardening sides and you know, stuff for cutting down crops, and you're like, who are these people? It's like poor farmers, more maybe, you know, got to do it by hand, something.
Yeah, it's not like they walk into a barn full of Iron Maidens or something.
No.
Like, yeah.
Now it's just like,
She's more country than the alternate wife, but apparently not enough.
Yeah.
But didn't she grow up like her father's a farmer, isn't he? Like that's a farm.
I don't know. It's
When her dad gets killed in the 60s.
I don't even know anymore. I'm just too confused.
Aunt Meg's butchering her own cows.
Man, I would totally
Like-
hang out with Aunt Meg.
That takes knives.
Probably even a saw. Gotta cut through some of that bone. Either that or she takes it to somebody and they just butcher it for her.
She didn't turn it down when they said, though.
I'm totally for it. As long as that one cow, like if that cow that we see in the movie, if it died, at least eat it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, tornado is not a disease. Like, if your cow catches tornado, it's not, like, no longer edible. Like, dead, just eat it. Been there for, like, 15 minutes. It's still good. And then it clears up, like, really fast. Like, oh, these pipes go at least 30 foot down. Like, I want to know how he knows that. Like, he just runs across some pipes, and we have no clue what they are. And he looks at them, he goes, they have to go down at least 30 feet. If we hoist to them, we'll be fine. And, like, so they connect themselves, and they survive because of it. Not because debris manages to miraculously not hit them, but because those pipes are 30 feet deep. And then right afterwards, it's, like, perfectly cleared up.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. How is it that no debris manages to hit them? Because it's just like flat. Like they have to go through both walls of the tornado because it hits, destroys the shack or the well shed or whatever. I guess it's a well. They're well pipes because there's like a pump thingy there that's spraying water on them after it's over.
Okay, I'm fine
And
with
then
that.
the other side goes past because they're in the center, so clearly the other side goes past. Nothing hits them. Like they don't get hit by a cow or a tanker truck or a piece of wood or another piece of that truss thing that kills driver of bad guys dude. Like how? Like really? Like they survive both ends of. Because see, that's the thing. I think that's part of it. It doesn't feel scary anymore because they can't possibly be any danger. Because they've survived so much already that you're not like, well, maybe this time. Like, no, they've survived 4 things of increasing intensity. Like, they're going to survive this one. There's no way they're going to pull the rug out from under us this time. Yeah, it does clear up really fast. But they so do some of the others. And so do tornado. I mean, I don't know if, like, the whole sky clears up normally. I guess it generally doesn't, but you know, a tornado sort of comes, it touches down, it dissipates, but yeah, it's like suddenly the sun comes out. After, I guess maybe because it's an F5, it's so big that it's taking up so much of the sky in the area that once the tornado part is gone, it's just gone.
Well, like there should still be the clouds left over.
At least one.
Yeah, because we all know it's cloudy inside.
So how do we feel about stars?
I'm gonna give this movie 3 stars. It's not enough to make, like, it doesn't have enough problems in it for me to go, well, I didn't enjoy watching the movie, but there's not enough for me to, like, constantly enjoy to want to watch it over and over, or at least within a period of time that is reasonable. Like, oh, I enjoyed that part, but that part was lackluster. I like that tornado, but no one died. I liked that character, but everybody else was kind of, you know, a pain in the ass. I like the kitchen scene and the gravy.
It's a food group. I think I'd probably like it a little bit more than you, because I think I want to say 4 stars, because except for that the last one isn't as scary as you'd expect it to be from the setup from the rest of them. It doesn't, and the sort of weakness of gonna get back with Helen Hunt, this other wife, is just like, you know, we know. But I do, except for that, it does the rest of its job. Like, hey, look, tornadoes, scary, right? And like, of course you would go off and do this if this is what your like life's work is. Like, yeah, like of course you are. Isn't this exciting and really scary at the same time? So I think it does most of its job. So I think I'll have to say 4 stars. It might be a really, really light 4, but I don't think there's not enough trouble with it for it to be brought down to 3 for me, at least.
So I'm going to give it an F3 and you're going to give it an F4?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that...
Because that F5 just wasn't scary.
Yeah, that F5 was not good enough.
Well, that's all we have to say about Twister. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then.
Later.